we're Antaures and Cara, family in progress.
I'm Antaures and this is Cara, and we are your hosts for today's show.
Hi, now today we are here talking about as being a parent of an athlete and coping with their ups and downs, specifically when your athlete does not win.
Okay, so we are specifically talking about when your athlete has trained all of these hours and they've done their very best, they've hit some remarkable times. We're basically talking about track at this point, but we do have them in other sports, but we're talking about track at this point, so I'm going to talk about time most of the time.
Okay, yes, when they've been training and you've dedicated a lot of time to prepare them for an event, and that day finally comes for them to show what they have in store, and it doesn't turn out as planned.
That can be one of the, we're going to call this this episode of the show The Big Letdown.
Yes. And the reason that we're talking about this is because it seems silly, but it doesn't just affect the the kid, but it affects the parents as well. And we were thinking about this as a topic because after our kids performed, of course, we wanted to present a unified front of support and encouragement for them because we knew they would be disappointed. However, inside, we were also dealing with some emotions ourselves.
So let's just talk about where we are. The kids have been preparing for a track season, and they have been preparing to go to the state track meet. And at this point in their season, they have done county championship. They have done some great races throughout their season, and we're at the point where we have regional qualifiers. Now, you have regional qualifiers, which is just the schools, which may be about 8 or so schools that are in a particular region that come together to compete to move on to what we call a sectional qualifier. And the sectional qualifiers is 4 of those regions that come together to find out which 8 athletes are going to make it to the state finals. And not the state finals, but to the state meet.
They're going to progress to the next level. And the reason that was kind of a big deal for us is because our kids have been performing very well this year. They've broken records. They're ranking in the state and in the nation at the top of the list in some events. So it's been a very exciting season. So of course all of this energy, this preparation, and these good results have come down to this point where now it's make or break. Either you move on
or you go home. So our kids, they've been performing well. They went to the prelims of that regional qualifier, and they actually performed well there and moved on to the finals. And in the finals for the regionals, they only take the top 4.
Right, and to make a long story short, obviously they did not move on in events that were expected. And like I said, one of the concerns that I had as a parent is why do I have a feeling about this? I know why my child does, because they have dedicated the time and energy. But why, as a parent, am I having to cope with this feeling of loss or this feeling of frustration or disappointment? When I know they went out there to work, they gave their best that they had at that moment, but it's still, there's still this feeling that I have. And I wasn't able to find much information to help parents cope with that feeling, because I've talked to a lot of parents.
Yeah, and that's good, because you weren't able to find a lot of the information that parents use to be able to cope with these things. So we are spending a lot of time trying to cope with this ourselves. We're talking about it at night, and we're feeling this sense of great loss, like we were on the line. And you started looking around, pointing fingers, thinking, my child just didn't push all the way through. These are the things that we start thinking about.
And we thought that this would be a topic that other people would be interested in, because we have talked to a lot of parents of athletes and different sports, not just track, but baseball, football. And when you get involved in these sports at a certain level, it is a commitment. It's not just a commitment for the athlete, but it becomes a commitment for the parents as well. You also have a vested interest. And I'm not talking about living vicariously through your child. I'm talking about the level of support that you dedicate to helping your child be successful in this area that they have determined they want to be successful in.
So basically, we have a term that we have for that information that we put out, and we call that term TEDs: time, energy, and dollars. And when you spend a lot of TEDs, when you put a lot of TEDs out there, it can become an emotional roller coaster.
And that's not our term. We got that term from somebody else. You all may have heard that before, but we liked it, and we're like, that was another parent of an athlete kind of summing up her feeling about her child's performance. And she said, I have invested a lot of TEDs out here, and I want to see some results. Or when the results aren't there, I have to make a decision on how to proceed with this.
So that brings us to the point of, how do you cope with this? And we went through some very bad coping. We went through some very bad coping, I guess, mechanisms or coping things that
measures,
we did. Measures last night by being up all night talking about these different things. But that led us to this. We've kind of come up with a way that we feel will kind of help us and our kids to be able to deal with this, to be able to cope with these situations. Because it's not going to only happen here, but it's going to also happen in many times in your life. Right. One of the things that we were talking about is like some of these things that happens for our kids. It can be tougher on them than it is actually on us, because what they're doing is under a microscope, and it's being seen, and every action that they're taking is being seen. It's being seen, and I guess we feel like we're under that microscope too when we're dealing with it. But like some of the life challenges that we go through, they're not necessarily under a microscope, so we can kind of deal with those things and kind of move on. But how do you do it as a parent of a child that's going to be experiencing these different ups and downs, and you're a part of this whole thing, and it's under a microscope? So,
and I wasn't really thinking about going along those lines, but I was thinking about the fact that we can put them under a microscope as parents, because we're watching every move that they're making, and every time they hit a bump in the road, we're in the background responding, whether positive or negative. They don't get to just go through these things and have a letdown and then just keep on moving. And move on. Yes, because we're watching every single time you're jumping. Oh, well, maybe you should try this. Oh, well, maybe you should try that. Maybe you should stop this. Maybe you should do that. Constantly trying to tweak and turn. And I think we can look at it as assisting, but now after having the discussions that we've had, I don't know if that is actually assisting. Sometimes you do have to step back as a parent and allow your child to make these errors or experience a few bumps, and you're there to kind of, sometimes you step back and don't do anything. Let them do it. Let them learn to cope with challenges and difficulties.
So we came up with this. We kind of let them deal with, deal with and cope with the challenges and the different things that they're going to have to experience. But we're going to take something that also that you try to do it in business, you try to do it when you're training other athletes, but your own kids, you may not necessarily do it. So, and that is, we've been talking about, like when you deal with the NFL. The NFL, they can have one of the worst seasons. They can have a terrible season. But every year, their focus is on the wins and what they're going to do to build to win the Super Bowl the next year. Even if they go home early, they talk about their wins, and then they talk about the things that they need to work on to build the Super Bowl the next year.
Right, so in essence, they're not focusing on the negative. They're, no matter what the circumstances are, they're finding the positive in it and using that as the basis for how they move forward. So what we decided that we were going to do is we're going to try to take that approach to, and we kind of do something similar, but we focus a lot on the when they don't hit their goal. So what we noticed is the kids will come out and they've broken all type of records. They've had these great seasons, and then they don't make it to a level, and then they feel horrible, and it's a disappointment. So what we want to do is we want to try to help them to be able to go through that by allowing them to go through these things, but focusing on the positives, the successes of their season. Yes, and coming up with ways to. We've said it's a shame when you work very hard, and for instance in track, and you make the podium. You may not be the person at the top of the podium, but you're on the podium, and you're disappointed. If you're on that podium, that means you were within the top 8 of all of the people who competed in that particular area, either in your state, could be in the nation, but you were in the top 8, but you're disappointed because you weren't.
Because you weren't number one.
Number one, yes. But it's a success, and you should celebrate it.
You celebrate that success and move on to that next thing.
And that's what we want to take. That's our takeaway from this experience. And we hope that this can help other parents. And we've talked a lot specifically about track, but it can really be applied to any sport, or not even a sport, any type of situation where you have invested time, your TEDs in your child, and you don't feel as though you're getting a return on your investment.
The result that you see. So we're going to end this on one note. And I think if everyone would take a look, I don't know if this is even a match, what we're talking about, but there's a movie called, it's not Blindside, but the movie where the Facing the Giants, the movie Facing the Giants, it's about a little boy. He's so, the dad is the epitome of a supportive parent. And we try to do this, go to this sometimes, but you can adopt ways to kind of modify that situation. So you may not be like him, but you modify it to take that principle that he was instilling. And his son
was the kicker. About the one that was so encouraging?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
His son, it was so encouraging. His son was more negative than anything. Dad, I'm no good. I'm not cut out for this. I'm not going to do any of this. He's like, well, son, I think if you just, do you really think that, son? He's like, well, yeah. Well, I think if you if you focused on it a little bit more, you could do better. And his son just kept being very negative. The son
was, no matter what was happening, the son found a negative remark to make, and the dad continued to be very supportive and encouraging of everything. It became almost funny and difficult because I'm like, man, could I do that? Could I be that person? But I noticed it, and I thought it was special, and that is a characteristic that I would like to adopt in dealing with my boys, and not just my boys, but my children. I have girls as well.
And so with that mindset and that principle in our mind, and we started focusing on the successes and being more encouraging, I think we'll be able to deal with our emotions better, and
help our
help our
children deal with
kids to be
theirs.
able to deal with their emotions, being under the microscope that they're under when there's a high,
And a low.
the highs and lows, but there's a high level of competition and a high expectation of them.
So we hope we were able to help you today, and we hope that you tune back in and check us out for more Family in Progress with Antaures and Cara.
Family in Progress, Antaures and Cara.